I am filled with gratitude to be here with you today. I'm grateful to finally get a chance to meet you in person. I confess to the search committee that my window into this congregation has mostly been through that camera up in the corner there. I've been kind of cyber stalking you. But it is wonderful to be here in person and to be able to greet you this morning. I'm also so grateful to be here with my family. My dad and stepmom, aunts and uncles, cousins, mother-in-law, 15 actually, of you are here as my beloved family. And it's so wonderful to share this moment with all of you as my family is on the doorstep of returning home to Minnesota. I'm also grateful for God's patience and perseverance through this search process. To some of us, it has felt a little long. Perhaps you know that feeling. But in this call, in this moment of being led to this place, I have to say it feels like a fit. I spent the first 25 years of my life living here in Minnesota. I was born in Minneapolis. My mother was a United Methodist minister. My father, a professional jazz musician, a teacher, and also a lay minister. You add to that my stepfather, who was a seminary professor at United, and my stepmother, who's a therapist and spiritual director, and you can see that I've basically inherited the family business. We lived in East Minneapolis and South Minneapolis, spent a little time in Rochester before I ended up near Forest Lake, where I went to high school. And I have an amazing set of connections to this neighborhood as well. My dad grew up in this neighborhood. My grandparents lived on Grand Avenue, just a little bit past Pascal. And so I came here many times to this neighborhood, to their house. I also, in high school, went to debate camp right here at McAllister College. So this is a homecoming in so many ways for me and for my family. One of the most formative experiences for me in my faith life growing up happened at Koinonia Retreat Center near Annandale, Minnesota. Raise your hand if you know of Koinonia Retreat Center. It's a retreat center that was built by Hennepin Avenue United Methodist Church, and a place of wonderful camp experiences. I remember growing up as a young child, especially going to family camp, and just loving the experience of being with so many other children and families. I was a social only child. And so being at camp was like opening up the world of other families and other children and possibilities. And my parents tell the story that we would get up in the morning most days and go to breakfast together. And then soon after breakfast, I would wander off with some other family into the activities of the day. Long about lunchtime, we'd regather in the lunchroom, and they'd scan to sort of see where I was. And it turns out I was now with some other family over here. And they'd check in, and I would assure them I was fine and had plans to go off into the afternoon. Well, they'd get there at dinner time and look around, scan the room, and sure enough, now I was over there with this family. And after dinner, they would scoop me up, exhausted, but completely happy. Koinonia is a Greek word that means communion through intimate participation. And for me, those experiences of family camp at Koinonia were my first taste of what Christian community could be and should be. This call to a life in community has been the most powerful call in my life since then. And over, the church has been the place where this call has been met and answered. It took a lot of love and courage, I think, for my friend Jolene to invite me to her church. Because when I walked into Kailua Christian Church on the windward side of Oahu, I stuck out. I was one of the few Howleys, Caucasians, one of the only adults under 30, and one of only a handful of folks born outside of Hawaii. My then shoulder-length hair made me look like quite the surfer dude. It would have been easy for them to assume that I just didn't fit in their church. Still, this mostly Japanese-American community welcomed me with homemade leis and warmly invited me into their community. And I found there acceptance and encouragement and that koinonia feeling in their midst. And my faith was kindled. Eventually, I discerned a call to ministry while in that congregation in Hawaii, and they enthusiastically supported me. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago. I was at a teacher appreciation event at my youngest daughter Isa's preschool in Berkeley. And during the event, a parent stood up and said, "We live in a world that only wants part of us. But here at the Children's Community Center, all parts of our children are seen and loved. I wish there were more places like this." What she said felt so true to me. Society judges people so often based on first impressions, appearances, and generalizations. It starts early with labeling children as shy or awkward or hyper or even happy. These labels stop us sometimes from seeing the beautiful complexity present in us from birth. I thought of that parent's words when I read today's scripture story. In it, Simon, a Pharisee, invites Jesus to eat at his house, and during dinner, suddenly this woman enters the house and approaches Jesus. Now, this was likely a very surprising and awkward moment for everyone. But instead of a conflict, an intimate and powerful encounter unfolds. The woman bathes Jesus' feet with her tears and dries them with her hair, and then she kisses his feet and anoints them. No one says a word. Simon thinks aloud to himself what probably everyone in the room must have been thinking, saying to himself, "If this man were a prophet, then he would have known who it is and what kind of woman this is who is touching him, that she is a sinner." To understand what it meant to be called a sinner, you can simply insert any of the labels used these days that limit our view of someone just to one characteristic: gay, undocumented, unemployed, single, mentally ill. It's 2,000 years later, and still we live in a culture of labels and stigmas that alienate and isolate us from each other. And whether we are comfortable admitting it or not, we all have internalized these labels and maintain an inner Pharisee that needs to be confronted like the one in today's scripture. First, it's the woman who confronts him. She arrives uninvited and steps boldly out of the shadow of alienation, ignoring the boundaries perhaps of gender roles and status, to get up close and personal with Jesus. Jesus perceives the judgment surrounding the woman and then challenges every assumption in that room by offering her forgiveness. He meets her longing with love. Notice she never actually asks Jesus for anything. Instead, I think her tears and her tender touch reveal a vulnerable hope. The forgiveness he offers not only removes the label that has stigmatized her, but it restores her humanity in the eyes of the community. How do we challenge the divisions that threaten the fabric of our community? How do we celebrate diversity without letting categories like race and class and sexual orientation and legal status and age and ability and body type and gender and religion and nationality to be used to take away our full humanity? How do we heal our community? Well, I believe it will take acts of love and courage like those of the woman and Jesus. And yet, let us not leave it in the hands of the outcasts and alienated to confront the Pharisees. We are called to koinonia, communion by intimate participation. We are called to the kind of intimacy marked by tears and kisses, hair and feet, love and forgiveness. We are called to acts of love and courage with one another, within these walls, and to the community beyond them. From what I have learned of you, you already know what it means to act with love and courage. It took love and courage for 3 congregations with 2 denominations to become one church family. It took love and courage for you to participate in a partnership that helped a Hmong refugee family relocate to Minnesota. It took love and courage to establish a hymn writing contest to inspire the wider church in its social reform. It took love and courage for you to become an open and affirming, more light and just peace church. It took love and courage for you to stand up for marriage equality last year and help defeat the amendment. And I hope you all are continuing to pray as the U.S. Supreme Court gets ready to issue its statement on California's proposition on marriage. Both denominations supported here, the Presbyterians and the United Church of Christ, have demonstrated love and courage in bold stances on social justice. And it takes love and courage to just simply be the church, to keep the lights on, to serve communion, to care for one another through hard times, to share our stories with one another. It takes love and courage to make music together and to respond to God's call. Love and courage are the cairns of your faith, marking the path you have taken to this moment. And by the grace of God, love and courage will lead us forward together. These are difficult times for churches. Like many mainline congregations, McAllister Plymouth has faced declining membership, financial uncertainty, and an aging building. Mainline churches have not managed to appeal broadly to younger generations, and the image of Christians in our society is still dominated by the most conservative and judgmental voices. These pressures are just symptoms of a deeper change that is occurring. Historian Phyllis Tickle, in her book The Great Emergence, says that about every 500 years the church goes through a huge transformation, much like a huge rummage sale, she calls it, rethinking what it believes and how it acts. She says it's been about 500 years since the Great Reformation, and that many of the challenges facing the Western Church are signs of a new turning point being called the Great Emergence. Participating in this time of turning requires that we must act together with love and courage, sorting through the faith and tradition we have inherited while allowing new forms of ministry and new expressions of faith to emerge in and through us. There is no roadmap for this journey. Instead, we must face the future simply with this gospel truth, this gospel call to love and courage. We must be bold in confronting assumptions and prejudice, vulnerable to the truth in each other, and hopeful that we too will be received and met by Jesus in our deepest longing. Amen.